The last video was all about what Vyvanse is. This video, my experience with it, how it affected me. Let's go. Kate Ruggs, the Soberdog, coming at ya. Thank you, all the patrons, supporting Soberdogs on Patreon. If you want to support us, check out Patreon. Before I get into it, Soberdogs does not promote or condone any drug use. Please seek professional medical help if you have an addiction. Vyvanse, my experience. So as I said in the last video where I talk about what Vyvanse is, it's, central nervous system stimulant. It's an upper, in that category. After my concussions, I had a huge problem focusing. It was almost like an overnight thing because I got a couple in high school and a couple in college, but then I got a real bad one in college, kind of my last big one, so to speak. And there was two very close together, but one was bad. After that, I went to class. It was like 3 days later, and I remember sitting in class just like I felt like I was high. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything. So then a day later, I'm sitting in my house reading, and I would read 2 sentences and just be gone, off in a different world. And it was the weirdest thing. I just could not focus. The doctor said, this definitely has to do with concussions and lack of attention span and post-concussive symptoms. And that's when I was prescribed Adderall too. I was on it prior, years earlier. I got prescribed, but this is when I got at that time at school. The Adderall worked. It definitely did what it was supposed to do, worked well. Problem was, during this time, my mindset was not really good. And, I'm taking more than I should. I was, doing the excessive Adderall to cram in study sessions at night. And then, maybe take a day off of it, just not doing it as prescribed. And there's also there's a lot of ways to abuse Adderall, plain and simple. I mean, you go to any college campus in the country, there's Adderall, trust me, a lot of it. And if you go to their library during finals week, there's Adderall floating around that place. Vyvanse too, any stimulant, but specifically Adderall because it's the most common, most known, and arguably the most prescribed. It is the most prescribed. So at that period, I stayed on the Adderall because it's what I took, it's what I liked, it's what helped, and it's what I knew. I ended up using it up before the month was out, and at the end of the month needed stuff, and I couldn't find anybody with it. So I ended up finding this guy who said, I got Vyvanse. Okay, what is it? What does it do? Blah, blah, blah. He explains it to me. I look it up. I take it. That first couple times I took it, to me, what I noticed is I got the focus effects of Adderall without kind of the big upper effects. That's what I didn't like about Adderall, is those big upper effects, like craving more nicotine. Like it honestly, to me, and this is in the higher doses, but it felt like being high on coke or high on meth. It was like jittery, paranoid, trying to do a bunch of different things, even though it's supposed to make you focus. But when you take a lot, it's a stimulant, boosts you up. I didn't get that with the Vyvanse, and I liked that because I didn't want the upper effect. But I only tried it a couple times then got my prescription and went on. So fast forward, when I was in early recovery, that I couldn't, again, the post-concussive symptoms, a lot of things were coming on. So the doctor, we're talking about it, was not keen on Adderall, big, especially since some of my past. Well, we said, okay, let's try a low-dose Vyvanse. And it actually worked very well for the time I took it. And it did what it was supposed to do. What I liked about it, again, is didn't get that twitchy, jittery feeling that I got a lot with Adderall. I didn't like that. That is the biggest thing to me, the difference between them. And everyone's got their own view and opinion, and it is what it is. But especially for people in recovery, I don't know. I like another wall put into place of abuse potential of a medication. So if this one is less abusable and doesn't have highs, because again, I'm in recovery. If I'm taking anything, so to speak, to get high, I should be looking at something. If I drink my coffee in the morning to, have my boost of coffee, okay, if I'm drinking 15 cups of coffee so I could feel all goofy and jittery, I got to probably question that, because what am I seeking or trying to escape still? That was how it was for me with Vyvanse and Adderall. It was like, if I'm taking it because my head's generally messed up and I can't focus, okay. And I also, too, always had like beginning stages of narcolepsy. I could fall asleep anytime, anywhere after those concussions. Those meds help that. But if I'm getting the Adderall or Vyvanse to sell it, to abuse it, to take 3 of them and do all, like, I don't know, that's that high effect that my goal, at least in recovery, was to work on, not chasing that, not get that, or dig to the core of why I was looking at that. So to me, that's where Vyvanse really helped at those stages, and it did what it did and helped me kind of rebuild. And then, I didn't need it and could do what I had to do after. But I just didn't want anything that was more prone to abuse, and that was my experience with it. So when people ask me, all I can speak on is me. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of Vyvanse than Adderall, especially for people in recovery. I think it's less abuse potential. But again, it is what it is. I have a lot of people argue that with me, and that's fine. That's their opinion, and that's what helps them or works for them, and I'm not a doctor. But I've also had people argue that with me that have openly admitted at a different time, oh, well, the reason I wanted to stay on Adderall instead of getting switched was I was selling it, was I snort them, fill in the blank. It's like, okay, well, you kind of proved my point then. You admitted now that you were selling it, but yet 3 months ago you argued with me that, Adderall is 10 times better, but you weren't even taking it like you were supposed to. You were abusing it. So you guys know my take. I think most meds in general in the US are overprescribed, but hey, it is what it is. All right. K Ruggs, the Soberdog, I'm out. Check out the other video all about the Adderall and about the Vyvanse. See ya.